In much of America, $2,000 a month barely covers rent. But in the right city abroad, that same check can still pay for housing, healthcare, food, and a comfortable daily life. The catch is that only a few destinations truly passed the full budget test in 2026. And 3 of the countries you have probably seen on every other list just quietly stopped qualifying. Here is exactly what we are going to do in the next 25 minutes. We are going to take one single American retiree, living alone, with $2,000 a month and nothing else. Then we are going to run 7 countries through the same test, using the same 7 spending categories, in one specific city each. Not a national average. A real place, with a real rent. And at the end, we will name 3 different winners, because the best destination depends entirely on what you personally cannot compromise on. Let me tell you what the test actually is, because this is where most retirement videos quietly cheat. The budget has to cover 7 things. Rent on a 1-bedroom home you would actually want to live in. Utilities, including electricity, water, internet, and cooling or heating. Groceries and eating out a few times a week. Local transportation without owning a car. Health coverage, either private insurance or realistic out-of-pocket care. Some kind of social life. And finally, a contingency reserve, because a retirement budget with 0 margin is not a budget, it is a countdown. $2,000 a month is our ceiling for all 7. Not rent plus extras. All of it. And there is a second test, which is the one that eliminates most countries. Legal residency. It is not enough that you can afford to live somewhere. You have to be allowed to stay. That means qualifying for a residence permit on your actual income, without buying property, without a 6-figure deposit, and without pretending that repeated tourist visas are a retirement plan. They are not. They are a legal risk with a countdown attached. One more thing before we start. Every figure in this video reflects what we could verify as of August 2026. Immigration rules change, sometimes with very little warning, and currency rates move. Treat these numbers as a starting range, not a quotation. Always check the official government source before you make a decision. Links are in the description. Let us begin with the country that makes this easiest. Panama. And specifically, not Panama City, which is genuinely expensive, but the highland town of Boquete and the nearby city of David in Chiriquí province. Panama has the single most accessible retirement residency program in the Western Hemisphere, and it is not close. The Pensionado program requires proof of a guaranteed lifetime pension of $1,000 per month for a single applicant. That is it. U.S. Social Security qualifies. There is no property purchase requirement, no fixed deposit, and no 2-year probation period. You are approved directly to permanent residency. The Pensionado discount schedule is where it becomes unusual. Approved retirees receive substantial legally mandated discounts across a wide range of everyday spending, including medical consultations, prescription medications, domestic transportation, and utilities. These are written into Panamanian law, not offered as a courtesy. On the money. In Boquete, a 1-bedroom rental outside the most expat-saturated streets generally runs somewhere in the $450 to $700 range. In David, which is a working Panamanian city rather than a retirement enclave, you can find comparable housing lower. Utilities in the highlands are genuinely cheap because Boquete sits at around 1,100 meters and you simply do not need air conditioning, which is the single largest hidden electricity cost in most tropical destinations. Healthcare is the real argument for Panama. Private hospital care in Panama City is among the best in Central America, and David has solid regional facilities. Many retirees pay out of pocket for routine care and carry a catastrophic policy rather than comprehensive insurance. Panama uses the US dollar as legal tender. There is no currency risk, no conversion spread, and no watching an exchange rate erode your pension. Now the drawback, because there always is one. Bouquet has been discovered. The expat concentration has pushed rents up meaningfully over the last decade, and the town can feel like a bubble rather than like Panama. The rainy season in the highlands is long and persistent, with a fine wind-driven mist locals call bajorek. And if you want the cheaper, more authentic option in David, you are trading the cool mountain climate for genuine lowland heat and humidity. Second, Ecuador, and the city of Cuenca. Ecuador's pensioner visa requires proof of monthly pension income equal to 3 times the national basic salary. For 2026 the basic salary is $482, which puts the pensioner visa threshold at $1,446 per month. That is comfortably inside a $2,000 Social Security budget, though it is high enough that a below-average benefit will not clear it alone. Importantly, this is a household threshold, so a couple can combine income. Ecuador is also dollarized. Same advantage as Panama, no currency risk. Cuenca sits at about 2,500 meters in the Andes. That altitude gives it something close to permanent spring, which means no heating bill and no air conditioning bill, 12 months a year. Your utility costs collapse. This matters more to a fixed income than almost anything else on the list. The historic center is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is genuinely walkable in the way that most cities marketed as walkable are not. Cuenca also has a functioning modern tram line. A retiree in Cuenca can very reasonably live without a car and without feeling stranded. Rent for a decent one-bedroom generally lands in the $350 to $600 range depending on how close to the historic center you want to be. Ecuador's public healthcare system can be joined by legal residents through the Social Security Institute for a monthly contribution, and there is a substantial private sector alongside it at prices far below the United States. The drawback. Altitude is not a small thing. 2,500 meters is high enough that people with cardiac or pulmonary conditions should have a frank conversation with their doctor before committing. Some people never fully adjust. Ecuador has also had real political and security volatility in recent years, concentrated heavily in coastal cities rather than in Cuenca, but it is a genuine consideration and you should read your government's current travel advisory rather than take anyone's reassurance, including mine. Third, Colombia, and the coffee region city of Pereira, with Medellin as the better-known and more expensive alternative. Colombia's retirement visa, the migrant category pensioner visa, requires a verifiable lifetime pension of at least 3 times the Colombian monthly minimum wage. In 2026 that works out to roughly 5.25 million Colombian pesos per month, which at recent exchange rates is somewhere in the range of $1,300 to $1,400. Social Security qualifies. Here is the part people miss about Colombia. It is not dollarized, and that cuts both ways. The peso has been weak against the dollar for years, which has made Colombia extraordinarily cheap for anyone earning in dollars. But it also means your rent in dollar terms can swing meaningfully year to year, in either direction. That is real risk on a fixed income, and anyone telling you otherwise is selling something. Pereira, and the coffee region generally, offers a genuinely mild climate at around 1,500 meters, decent healthcare, and rents well below Medellin. Colombia's private healthcare system is legitimately strong, and prepaid private health plans cost a fraction of American premiums. The drawback is security, and it needs to be said plainly rather than either dismissed or sensationalized. Colombia is much safer than its reputation from 30 years ago, and it is also not uniformly safe. Petty crime and street robbery are real in the major cities, and the standard local advice is not to display valuables in public. Read the current official travel advisory for the specific department you are considering, not for the country as a whole. Fourth, Albania, and the coastal cities of Vlora and Durrës. This is the one that surprises people. Albania's residence permit for retirees requires proof of pension income of about 1.2 million lek per year, which is roughly 11,600 euros annually, or a little under 1,000 euros per month. You also need a notarized lease and health insurance valid in Albania. But the reason Albania is on this list is tax. Albania does not tax qualifying foreign pension income. Not at a reduced rate. At zero. For a retiree living on a pension, that is a structurally different proposition from almost every other country on this list, and it is worth confirming with a qualified tax advisor for your specific situation, because the interaction with U.S. tax obligations is its own conversation. Americans are taxed on worldwide income regardless of where they live. Albania is a Mediterranean country at a price point that no longer exists anywhere else on the Mediterranean. One-bedroom rents in Vlora outside the peak summer months are low by any European standard. Food is inexpensive and genuinely good. The coastline is spectacular. The drawbacks are substantial and I want to be direct about them. Healthcare is the weakest on this list. Albania's public system is underfunded, and serious or complex conditions are often handled by traveling to Greece, Italy, or Turkey. If you have an ongoing medical condition that needs specialist management, Albania is a difficult recommendation. Second, summer coastal rents can spike hard during tourist season, and some landlords will not do a year-round lease at a year-round price. Third, English is less widely spoken than in the other destinations here, and Albanian is not a language you will pick up incidentally. Fifth, Portugal, and specifically the interior, not the coast. Portugal's D7 visa, the passive income route, requires minimum passive income of about 920 euros per month as of January 2026, tied to the national minimum wage. Pensions qualify. On paper, that is one of the most accessible thresholds in Western Europe. But here is the honest part, and it is the reason Portugal has to be qualified rather than simply recommended. Lisbon and Porto have become genuinely expensive. Rents in those cities have risen sharply, and a $2,000 budget in central Lisbon in 2026 is tight to the point of being unpleasant. The Portugal that works on this budget is the interior. Castelo Branco, Viço, Guarda, Covilhã. Towns in the Alentejo. These are real places with real infrastructure, hospitals, and transport links, and rents that are a fraction of the coast. What you get for that is a European Union residence permit, access to the Portuguese National Health Service after registration, one of the lowest violent crime rates in the world, and visa-free movement across the Schengen area. That last point is not a small benefit. From Portugal you can reach most of Europe cheaply. The drawbacks. Interior Portugal is quiet, and I mean genuinely quiet. Winters in the northern interior are colder and damper than people expect from a Mediterranean country, and Portuguese housing is famously poorly insulated, so heating costs are real. The English-speaking expat community is much thinner away from the coast. And the D7 comes with a minimum physical presence requirement, so it is not a part-time arrangement. 6th. Thailand, and Chiang Mai. Thailand's retirement visa is available from age 50. The financial test is 800,000 Thai baht held in a Thai bank account, or 65,000 baht in monthly income, or a combination reaching 800,000 baht over the year. At recent exchange rates, the monthly income route sits close to $2,000, which for our specific single retiree is uncomfortably tight. The deposit route, at roughly $24,000 in a Thai bank, is the more realistic path for most people on this budget, and it requires having that capital available. Health insurance is now mandatory for this visa category, with minimum coverage requirements for both outpatient and inpatient care. Budget for that as a fixed line item, and be aware that policy pricing rises steeply with age and that pre-existing conditions are frequently excluded. Chiang Mai is the reason Thailand is on the list. Cost of living is low, the food is exceptional and cheap enough that many retirees rarely cook, private hospital care is genuinely world-class and inexpensive by American standards, and the established international community means you are not starting socially from zero. The drawbacks. The visa requires annual renewal and regular reporting to immigration, which is administrative friction that never goes away. Chiang Mai has a severe seasonal air quality problem during the burning season, roughly February through April, when particulate levels can become genuinely hazardous. Retirees with respiratory or cardiac conditions frequently leave the region for those months, and you should budget for that possibility. And Thailand is very far from the United States, which matters when there is a family emergency. 7th. The Philippines, and Dumaguete. The Philippines offers a special resident retiree visa. For applicants aged 50 and above with a qualifying monthly pension, the required bank deposit is $10,000 alongside demonstrated pension income of at least $800 per month for a single applicant. It is a permanent, multiple-entry resident status, which removes the annual renewal treadmill that Thailand imposes. English is an official language of the Philippines, and it is used in government, medicine, and business. For an American retiree, that single fact removes an enormous amount of daily friction. Reading a lease, understanding a diagnosis, arguing with a utility company. All of that is dramatically easier. Dumaguete is a small university city on Negros with a walkable seafront, a low cost of living, and a long-established foreign retiree community. Rents are low, local transport is cheap, and food costs very little. The drawbacks are real. Healthcare quality outside Manila and Cebu is limited, and serious conditions mean traveling. The Philippines sits squarely in the typhoon belt, and that is a recurring, budgetable risk rather than a rare event. Infrastructure, particularly power reliability and internet, is less consistent than elsewhere on this list. And like Thailand, it is very far from the United States. Now, the 3 countries that did not make this list, and why. Mexico. This is the big one, and it is the change most people have not caught up with. Effective January 1, 2026, Mexico raised the financial thresholds for temporary residency substantially. Reporting on the new consular requirements puts the monthly income test at roughly $4,400, up from around $2,800 the previous year, with a savings alternative in the 70s of thousands of dollars. Processing fees also increased. Read that again against our budget. A retiree with $2,000 a month in Social Security does not qualify for Mexican temporary residency in 2026 on income alone. Mexico may still be a wonderful place to live, and the cost of living in Mérida or Oaxaca is still reasonable. But the door to legal residency on a modest pension has narrowed dramatically, and any video telling you to retire to Mexico on $2,000 a month needs to explain how you are going to be allowed to stay. Because repeated tourist entries are not residency, and Mexican immigration officers have become notably less generous about long stays. Greece. The financially independent person visa, which is the standard retirement route, requires a minimum income of about 3,500 euros per month for a single applicant. That is close to $4,000. Greece is genuinely affordable to live in on the ground, particularly on the mainland and the less fashionable islands. But you cannot get the residence permit on $2,000 a month. The living cost and the visa threshold are two completely different questions, and Greece is the clearest example of why you have to check both. Malaysia. The Malaysia My Second Home program was substantially restructured, and the current tiered version requires fixed deposits starting in the tens of thousands of dollars and rising to seven figures, alongside a mandatory residential property purchase that must be held for a minimum of 10 years. Whatever that program is now, it is not a modest pension retirement route. Penang remains affordable. Getting permission to stay there long-term no longer is. Before we compare them, there is a category that almost every retirement video leaves out entirely, and it is the one that ruins more moves than any other. Setup cost. Everything we have discussed so far is the monthly number. It is not what it costs to arrive. Getting legally established in a new country is a one-time expense that lands entirely in your first year, and it is substantial. Count on immigration attorney or facilitator fees, which for most of these countries run somewhere in the $1,000 to $3,000 range, and more where the process is complex. Count on government application and residence card fees, which are separate from the attorney and which several of these countries raised recently. Count on apostilles and certified translations of your birth certificate, marriage or divorce records, police background check, and pension verification letter, because every country on this list wants documents authenticated in a specific way and each one costs money and time. Then count on the move itself. Flights. Excess baggage or shipping. A deposit and first month on a rental, which in several of these markets means 2 or 3 months up front. Furnishing an apartment, because a large share of long-term rentals in Latin America and Southeast Asia come unfurnished, and that can mean genuinely empty, including no appliances. Then the ones people forget. A visa run or a return trip home, because several of these processes require you to start the application at a consulate in the United States. Health insurance that has to be paid annually in advance rather than monthly. And in Thailand's case, the 800,000 baht that has to sit in a Thai bank account and stay there, which is not a fee but is capital you cannot touch. Realistically, budget somewhere between $5,000 and $12,000 to get established, depending on the country and how much you ship. If your entire financial cushion is smaller than that, the honest answer is that you are not ready to move yet, no matter how attractive the monthly number looks. Build the setup fund first. A retirement abroad that starts by draining your emergency reserve is a retirement that ends the first time something goes wrong. Let us put the 7 survivors side by side. On pure affordability, the lowest total monthly cost, the leaders are Albania and the Philippines, with Ecuador close behind. On residency accessibility, meaning how easy it is to actually get approved and stay approved, Panama is the clear winner. $1,000 a month, permanent status immediately, no renewal treadmill. On healthcare quality per dollar, Thailand and Colombia are strongest, with Panama's private sector close behind. Albania is the clear weakest. On safety, Portugal is the standout, and it is not particularly close. On walkability and getting by without a car, Cuenca and Portugal's interior towns lead, with Dumaguete strong for its size. On not having to think about the exchange rate, Panama and Ecuador win outright because they use the US dollar. So who actually wins? It depends on what you refuse to compromise on, and here are 3 different answers. If your priority is certainty, meaning you want the residency approved without drama, you want your pension to buy the same thing next year as it does this year, and you want to stay within a few hours of the United States, the answer is Panama. The Pensionado program is the most forgiving residency route on this list. The dollar removes currency risk entirely, and you are a short flight from home. If your priority is stretching the money as far as it will possibly go, and you are in good health, the answer is Albania. The tax treatment of foreign pensions is genuinely exceptional. The Mediterranean coast at that price exists nowhere else, and the total monthly cost is the lowest here. But you are accepting the weakest healthcare on the list, and that is a serious trade. And if your priority is safety, healthcare you never have to worry about, and the ability to travel widely, the answer is interior Portugal. You are giving up some cost advantage and accepting a much quieter life, but you are buying into a European Union health system and one of the safest countries in the world. One thing I want you to take away from this more than any specific number. The countries that fail this test mostly do not fail on cost of living. They fail on residency. Mexico, Greece, and Malaysia are all places where $2,000 a month buys a decent daily life. They are places where $2,000 a month will not get you permission to stay. Those are 2 entirely different questions, and almost nobody separates them. So check the visa threshold first. Then check the cost of living. In that order. Doing it the other way around is how people end up falling in love with a city they cannot legally live in. If this was useful, subscribing genuinely helps, because we make these comparisons for every budget and every situation. Now here is what I want to know in the comments. If you had a $2,000 monthly retirement budget, which of these matters most to you, healthcare, safety, climate, or staying close to the United States? Tell me your single highest priority, and we will build a ranking around that exact priority in a future video. And if you want to go deeper on Europe specifically, watch the comparison next, where we take a $2,500 budget and put Spain, Portugal, and Greece head to head to see what that money actually buys in each one. Because the answer is much less obvious than you would think. Remember, this is educational information, not financial, tax, medical, legal, or immigration advice. Rules change. Verify every requirement with the official government source before you act on it.